Hello, welcome to Life Talk for July the 17th, 2018. Boy, the year's flying by.
Yes, it is.
And I'm Mark Crutcher, president of Life Dynamics, and I'm joined by the usual suspects, my assistant Renee.
Hello.
Hello, Renee. And my daughter, Sheila.
Hi.
And we have a new member of the usual suspects team, and we want to introduce him at this time because he'll get a little edgy and we won't have been able to keep him here long. But this is, let me see here. This is Tux. We named him that because he wears a permanent tuxedo. He's black with a white front, and he's our newest dog here at Life Dynamics. And he's about the sweetest little thing we've ever seen.
Yeah, he's like a baby. He wants to be paid attention to 24/7.
And held.
So, yeah.
He reminds me of, I don't know, maybe Sheila when she was this age. But anyway, this is Tux. He's the newest member of the usual suspects. And we're going to pass him back off to my wife now so she can take him.
He's a cutie.
So if you hear a little bit of yelping during that episode,
Yeah,
it might be him.
He has not got his inside voice down yet. No. So anyway, that's Tux.
Yes.
So if you hear us mentioning Tux, and he goes along with all the other dogs and cats, we only have one cat now.
Yes, that's all.
So we only have
That's all
one
we
cat.
need.
That's all the cat that cat we have is all the cat we need. That's a fact. But anyway, there's a lot of things going on, and we're going to get to here in a little bit. But one of the biggest things is happening up in Indiana. I want you kind of bring people up to date here a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in Indiana, it seems like. There's been news articles that have come out that said that the abortion rate is higher in Indiana than any other state. So it seems like that we've got created equal, and we have OSA, Operation Save America, going out and just hitting them hard, the abortionists and
Right.
the people that work in the facilities. And OSA actually had a week-long journey there. It was called Lead Justice to Victory, and they have had a lot of young people come in off the streets to get out of the four walls of the church and actually go out and pray at the abortion clinics, and they've sent out mailers to abortionists in the neighborhood. And so we have him on as a guest.
We're going to have Rusty Thomas on from Operation Save America from here in wacky Waco. But we'll be getting to him here in just a minute. I want to bring up here something that observation you made, Sheila. There's a Planned Parenthood clinic,
And Indiana.
Fort Wayne, Indiana,
Yeah,
that is closed down, and they're blaming it on anti-choice, as they call it, harassment.
So this Planned Parenthood shut down, has closed its doors, and their excuse was, it's because we can't do business. All of these anti-choicers are harassing us. Well, if you look online at their reviews are terrible. So even if, people protesting weren't protesting, they might still have shut down because,
Anyways,
because
regardless.
their reviews were terrible. And they said, even though we don't provide abortions, why are they harassing us?
Right.
Well, even if they don't physically provide abortions, they still refer people
Right.
to get abortions.
And that makes
Right.
them 100% as guilty as the person who holds the knife.
That's right.
Because they were part of the chain.
Yeah.
They were part of the chain that led to that baby
Right.
being butchered.
That's right. Yeah. From the first person that person talks to that schedules the appointment or sends them off to a place where they actually do the killing. It's the same difference.
It even sometimes goes upstream from that, Renee. If that was a girl that was sent there by a counselor at her school, that counselor's a butcher. That counselor's a murderer just as much as the abortionist is.
Yeah,
right.
because Planned Parenthood is going to urge them to have abortions.
Well, sure they do.
So
We know that.
they're just as guilty.
Yep. All right, going back to this situation up in Indiana, Operation Save America has been very active there lately, and someone we've had on the show many times before, been a friend of mine for many, many years, Rusty Thomas, is the leader of Operation Save America, and he's right here in Waco, Texas, and he joins us by phone from his home. Hello, Rusty, how are you?
Good morning, Brother Mark, Renee, and Sheila. God bless you guys.
Thank you.
Hi,
You too.
Good morning.
Tell us what's been going on. You've been causing problems up in Indiana, and tell us what you guys been doing.
Well, Brother Mark, we've actually been plowing and sowing seeds in Indiana for close to 2 years. We found a a peg in the temple. We've got some local pastors who have, just adopted the vision and mission to see Indiana liberated from child sacrifice and the shedding of innocent blood. So we have poured in a lot of manpower, a lot of resources, cast the vision, and they have received us. They've covered us, and they've sent us out into the battle. And it's making, quite a stir, no small stir. Then that always happens, Mark, when the church comes, out of the building, and the salt comes from out of the shaker, and the light from out of the bushel, and we go to the exposed areas, and we go to the halls of power, and we hold them accountable, to thus saith the Lord, thou shalt not murder. It doesn't make a difference what the Supreme Court has ruled. The Supreme Court is not the supreme being. And any law that violates the moral commandment of God is no law at all.
Right.
And so this is the kind of message that we are bringing to state, and we just happen to be in Indiana right now.
Well, you're using a tactic that we kind of pioneered many years ago, using direct mail to the people around the community. And
Absolutely. And by the way, Mark, I do want to commend you and Life Dynamics. You have been an innovator for years, and your work has helped many ministries adopt, certain venues that has produced good fruit. We know that through these direct mailers that abortionists have quit.
yes,
Because it's interesting, a lot of people don't know, some abortionists are very blatant and proud of what they do, but some lead secret lives to the point we have even confronted abortionists whose families did not know what they were doing on the side. And so these mailers were eye-openers, and not just to the neighbors, but to the families themselves.
right.
And so we know that God has used this to bring conviction and has led some out of the death industry into life, and we're grateful for that.
Well, Rusty, we exposed an abortionist in Arkansas several years ago because one of his patients called us, and she had learned that he did abortions, and he had delivered 5 of her children, and she was livid.
Of course. I mean, even though abortion is legal, there's still that stigma. And
Oh, yeah.
so when you start, telling neighbors, hey, you have an abortionist living among you, people get upset and angry, and they, want to drag that abortionist name through the mud,
Right.
letting people
And
know.
rightly so.
Exactly.
Well, and having 3 children, I can't imagine an abortionist delivering any of my children, any of them.
Well, she
I
had
just-
5
Yeah,
that he
right.
delivered. Matter of fact, and I just thought about this, he delivered her.
Wow.
He delivered this woman, and then he delivered 5 of her children, and he found out he was an abortionist at a Planned Parenthood on his day off. Everybody thought he was playing golf. The interesting thing, Rusty, about that particular case was this guy was in a practice with 4 other OBGYNs, and they had a codicil in their lease that said they couldn't do abortions. His partners didn't know he was doing abortions. His wife was the office manager, and she didn't know he was doing them.
Crazy.
Yep. Yep. There is some of that going on, buddy, and obviously, as Christians, we are called to not participate in the unfruitful works of darkness,
Right.
but rather expose them. And of course, the darkness hates it when the light
Definitely.
exposes their evil. And if you look at the reaction, particularly of the press in Indiana, they're just appalled, that we would send out these flyers exposing what these people do as they murder children and accept blood money. And what's so interesting, Mark, and it's always the same old template, they're concerned about possible violence being committed against those who murder children. And of course, what's always missing from the equation is the actual violence that these people are committing.
Right.
Exactly.
And so in the world, of course, good is evil and evil is good.
Yeah.
And so they ignore the blatant violence of those who are participating in this evil, and they want to accuse those who are exposing this evil as the evildoer.
Right.
And unfortunately, this is just part of the battle as we move forward to end this Holocaust.
Well, you're talking about the media. I have made a note here on one of the things I pulled up from the media talking about this direct mail program that you did up there. And they described it as a threatening mailer. Now, what the mailer asked people to do is to pray for the abortionist and tell her to repent. Where is the threat in that? I don't understand the threat part of this.
Well, buddy, when you're guilty of shedding innocent blood, and you have hardened your soul to that wicked act, buddy, I'm telling you, the message gets skewed in your mind, because you got to understand, brother, that, when you do something like this, it does something to your soul.
Absolutely.
And so any words that would confront, who you are and what you do, the world does not understand biblical language. I could remember one time, brother, when we went to an abortionist in Houston, Texas, and we were preaching to him to say there is room at the cross for you. There's room at the cross for you. In other words, you're not beyond redemption. You can repent. You can come to the saving grace and knowledge of Jesus Christ and use your skills to bring healing instead of death, darkness, and despair. Well, in the court trial, Mark, the prosecuting attorney said, "You see that, judge? They want to crucify him. They want to murder him. They want to put him on the cross."
Wow.
I mean, and this is kind of the incredible double standard and misinterpretation of the world when we say these kinds of things.
Right, right.
And they like to, instead of reflecting inward, instead of reflecting on themselves, they like to point the finger at somebody else.
Right. That's
Well,
right.
one thing we've learned in this battle, and I know you know this, Mark, when people are guilty of this atrocity, if they don't humble themselves and repent and acknowledge the truth, they're only stuck in one direction, and that is try to seek the high moral ground to justify their evil and make you
Exactly.
look like the evildoer for exposing it.
Exactly.
And that is a part of the battle that we are engaged in.
But Rusty, Jesus told us this is what was going to happen. So this is not a shock or a surprise to any of us, or it shouldn't be. But
No, he said if they hated him,
that's right.
and persecuted him, they would hate us if we followed him and told the truth in love.
He said that.
You know,
they're going to
and
hate
so,
you.
yeah,
but,
this is sort of a Christianity 101, buddy. You know?
They're going to hate you because they hated me first.
Yeah.
And that's
exactly right, buddy.
right. Hey, listen, Rusty, we're out of time, and I want to applaud you for what you're doing up there in Indiana and other places too. But it is having an effect, and babies are being saved when these abortion mills shut down, even one that just refers. Then that means there's going to be somebody that's not referred because that abortion mill shut down.
And when abortionists get called out on, what they're doing,
They
then it
shut
brings
down.
light.
Right,
So.
that's right. But Rusty, before we go, I know that a lot of our audience is aware of the situation with your son. And for those who aren't aware, Rusty's son is battling cancer. He's 16, is that right, Rusty?
Yes, sir, he is.
And I'll tell you, he has put up an absolutely heroic battle. And one of the things that I think just really touches my heart is a few weeks ago when he had a wish that he could speak to Governor Abbott of Texas. And Abbott actually agreed to talk to him.
Yes, it was amazing.
And what your son asked Abbott for was not for him or for anybody, for you or anybody else. It was to pledge that Governor Abbott would do everything he could to end abortion. Your son is on his deathbed asking for that.
Very unselfish thing that he could have done when it was through Make-A-Wish, right, Rusty? And he could have had anything else.
Here's the story behind that, and this is just, the goodness of God, during this fiery trial. He was approached by Make-The-Wish Foundation, and they told him, hey, you could meet with any celebrity or sports figure. We can send you to Disney World or Disneyland, and, what would you like? And it was amazing. Every time he articulated his Make-the-Wish, it never was officially done by Make-the-Wish Foundation, but God himself did it. Like he would say, well, I'd like to meet with Tim Tebow, and like the next day, Tim Tebow would call him, it was stuff like that, and so it really wasn't the actual Make-the-Wish Foundation that made this possible. It's just that when we released his wish publicly, there was public pressure. Political insiders, media, all began to contact Governor Abbott saying, listen, you need to talk to this kid.
Yeah.
And amazingly, it happened. And literally, it's traveled around the world, Mark. And here's the thing that I want our folks, especially in Texas, to take note why this is so important. Because this is the first time we've got public leverage to call our civil magistrates to do their duty to end this Holocaust and to defend the life of the preborn. And we have commitments from state legislators in Texas that they're going to hold the governor accountable to his promise to eradicate this evil from the state of Texas. So this is a very exciting development.
Definitely. And another cool thing is that he has written his testimony for everybody to read, and everybody needs to go and read it too. What is it called?
It's Jeremiah's letter to his generation.
Yeah.
And again, that has also gone worldwide. In fact, Christians and pro-lifers from other nations have contacted Jeremiah asking them how could they end abortion in their nation. And so literally God has used the suffering of our son literally to reach the nations of the earth. And of course, this is what we pray for. This is why we serve. This is what we seek to be accomplished. But of course, we could never come up with this script in the way it is happening. And so, I call it the painful gift, because we have wept, we have sorrowed, and yet we have seen God move miraculously to touch so many lives, and for that we give him glory.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, obviously God thinks a lot of your son. That he gave him. That he gave him this responsibility.
No doubt about that, Mark.
Right, right. Well, how is he doing right now? What is his health like right this moment?
Well, it's kind of amazing, brother, because honestly, we went to 2 countries and 6 hospitals, amassed a mountain of debt for all the hospitals and doctors saying we've gone as far as we can, just bring him home and prepare him to die. And every time they count him out, he keeps coming back. And so it's just been like this fluid roller coaster ride. So we figure, Mark, that either God's not done with him, he's got a few more kingdom assignments before he takes him home, or it's sort of like this hope against hope that he's actually healing him. And I will tell you, brother, he is improving. Everything the doctor said that was supposed to happen and the time it was supposed to happen, none of that is happening.
Amen.
And so we're kind of standing here in awkward amazement saying, okay, God, we're, obviously going along on this ride, this journey of faith, and we're just going to trust him all the way, buddy.
Wow. Well, it's a beautiful story, and I'll tell you something. It's a made-for-TV movie. I don't know that
It truly is.
I don't.
Now, a lot of times, honestly, brother, when I look at my life and all the stuff that's happened, that's like some of my prayers. I'm like, are you making a movie? I mean, it just boggles the mind, But he's doing well, buddy. The main thing, and this is what I know that the grace of the Lord and the Spirit of God rests on him. I mean, he has his moments, obviously. He's pretty much lost everything. Right. But he's really not resorted to a woe is me sort of self-pity and wallowing. He's not, shaking his fist to the heavens and raging, why? or anything like that. He has truly, I won't say accepted this, but he has truly used it, you know, to advance God's kingdom and his glory in the earth. And I know our Heavenly Father smiles upon him. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely. Well, Rusty, again, you've got the prayers of, I think, millions of pro-lifers that know about Jeremiah's situation, and that he's paralyzed, and he's, you know, obviously not in a good health situation, but people are praying for him, and God might be getting to the point where he says, you know, hey, these people are driving me crazy. I'm going to have to do something.
Well, honestly, Mark, I truly believe, and I really do believe this. I think that's why he's still here. It's because of the prayers of the saints.
Right.
And I have no doubt about that.
Well, give him a hug and kiss for us, and keep us posted on all the things you're doing, and we'll have you back on.
All right. Bless you, Mark.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rusty.
Bye.
All right. Press on, guys.
Bye-bye. Now, how do we top that?
You can't top
We don't
that.
top that.
We
you
don't.
know,
Yeah.
the
Not when the Lord's at work.
and you know, to see what he's done through Jeremiah. I mean, you got kids out here that are mad at their parents because they're not getting a new car or something like that. And this little boy is dying of cancer and is paralyzed, and gets a chance to speak to the governor of Texas, and all he asks him for is to stop abortion.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Keep praying for healing.
It's astonishing. Anyway, we'll keep people apprised of that situation as it develops, and let them know what's going on. But just pray for him is the main thing.
Yeah.
In the meantime, let's take a break now for RoeBots.
In 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court legalized abortion nationwide. The decision is called Roe versus Wade, and those who defend it are known as RoeBots. This is how they think.
You people say that abortion should be illegal in all situations, but what happens when the pregnancy threatens the mother's life? Why should she have to die because you don't think she should be allowed to have an abortion?
Well, first off, these people would have you believe that every year, the only thing standing between millions of pregnant women and the Grim Reaper is abortion. Personally, I'd like to know when pregnancy became so dangerous. Maybe it happened about the same time that abortion became legal and therefore so profitable. In any event, what these people carefully avoid is the well-established fact that modern medicine has effectively eliminated any circumstance in which continuing a pregnancy will kill the mother. Simply put, there is no pregnancy-related medical condition that is cured by killing the baby. However, if that extraordinarily rare situation were to exist, the guiding principle for dealing with it is intent. To understand this, consider the issue of conjoined or Siamese twins. It is now common for doctors to perform surgery to separate them, and it is accepted that, in some instances, the chances for both surviving is questionable. However, no ethical surgeon would ever agree to intentionally kill one of the twins in order to save the other one. In every case, the doctor's intent would be to save both. It may be that prior to surgery, everyone involved agrees that it is possible, perhaps even likely, that only one will survive, but this surgery would never be performed with that as the intended outcome. This same principle should be applied when pregnancy poses an immediate threat to the physical life of the mother. The medical staff should be directed to do everything possible to save both mother and child. If, as an unintended consequence of that effort, either or both fail to survive, that would be an unavoidable, thus permissible outcome. However, Turn your back on.
e-
It is as morally indefensible to intentionally kill the baby to save the mother as it would be to intentionally kill the mother to save the baby. The point is, the abortion lobby wants the public to think that the pro-life position is that the fetus should have more rights than the woman, and that she should be forced to die if it is necessary to save her unborn child. That is a lie. The pro-life position is not that the baby's rights are superior to the mom's, but that they are equal. It is a position that protects the lives of women without caving into the abortion lobby's morally bankrupt and self-serving argument that it is sometimes necessary for women to kill their own children. Welcome back. We're just about out of time, but there's a couple of little things we want to get to here before we go on. First off, as we know, China has had this long-standing policy of one child, and where they would actually go out to people's houses that had a second child and take that child already born and kill that child, forcing women to have abortions. They were going to have this one-child policy. Then they liberalized it and moved it into a two-child policy. Now they're having major problems over there.
Surprise, surprise.
And now, believe this or not, China is considering offering financial incentives to women who will have babies. Now, other countries have already been doing
Yeah,
it.
other countries have even, said, hey, people who don't live here, we're welcoming you. We're welcoming you and your family. We'll pay you more if you have babies. And so China isn't the only one.
Right. Well, France is doing it. Russia's doing it. Japan's doing it.
Yeah.
There was an article not long ago where a man was at an airport with his daughter, and he actually had her handcuffed to him
Right.
so she would not be taken, because it is 10-1 for the males over the females, and so there's
Because
not
of
enough.
sex selection abortion.
Yeah,
Right.
there's not enough females for the men in this country.
And with the sex selection abortions, I mean, where are the feminists outraged about that?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that brings up a whole other topic, but these countries are hemorrhaging because of the whole abortion issue.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
because they are killing off all the females, or they were.
Yeah.
Well, this thing with China and the sex selection abortions, killing off the females and so forth, it's a classic example of what happens when men think they can be God. And that's what this whole issue is about. This is about people, man and women, thinking they can be God.
It's going to take generations and generations for,
fix.
yeah.
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 If you start now, it's going to take generations.
Yeah.
But also, I couldn't. We've talked about the issue of on here before. In America, over 90% of all babies diagnosed with Down syndrome in the womb are murdered in the womb because they have Down syndrome for no other reason. It is a national disgrace. And you have companies, I think it was Iceland now, who's bragging about the fact that they've wiped out Down syndrome. They have no more Down syndrome.
Right.
And they did it with abortion.
And unless the child that has Down syndrome is a very low Down syndrome child, and it doesn't pick up on the test.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the only Down syndrome babies that are being saved.
But when Americans heard about Iceland, aborting almost every single child that has Down syndrome, a lot of Americans were outraged about that,
Right.
Because
But here's one that wasn't. Let me get my glasses here. I want to make sure I read this correctly. Ruth Marcus, morally defective, degenerate writer for the editorial writer for the Washington Post newspaper. She was responding to an article about a couple that did not abort a Down syndrome child. And I want to read you what she said. Quote, "I would have aborted a fetus with Down syndrome. Women need that right. I can say without hesitation that tragic as it would have felt and ghastly as a second trimester abortion would have been, I would have terminated those pregnancies and had the Down syndrome testing come back positive. I would have grieved the loss and moved on." Listen to this. This is the big statement. Quote, "That was not the child I wanted."
Right.
so
Yeah. This
She wanted the designer baby, where we said a little bit ago.
blonde hair, blue eyes. yeah.
Exactly.
You know.
The perfect child.
Right. Well, I adopted the perfect child, and she didn't have blonde hair or blue eyes.
No.
Right?
That's right.
She was adopted. But anyway, this statement right here says more about the moral depravity, not only of Ruth Marcus, but of our nation as a whole.
yeah.
Yeah, she's thinking this. Millions of more thinking it.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, she says, first of all, without hesitation.
Without hesitation.
Yeah, so that shows her moral character. And then she says, a ghastly second trimester abortion. So if you think it's so ghastly, why do you support it?
Right. And this was not the child I wanted.
Yeah.
What this means is something I've talked about here many, many times before. You and I have had this discussion, Renee. We've now reached the point, because of legalized abortion, where children do not have intrinsic value. The value of a child is what it can do for me.
That's right.
Exactly.
And that's what she's saying. That was not the child I wanted. She calls it a child. She'd have no hesitation killing it, right? That's what she said.
But she said, oh, she would grieve the loss for a
Right.
little bit, and then she would just move on.
Move on.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Once abortion was legalized in 73, no child has any significance,
Any intrinsic value.
any value at all
Right.
whatsoever.
Right. Only to the extent of what they can do for us.
Yeah.
And this was not the child I wanted. It's always about me.
And these are the same people that, talk on other issues of, well, don't we need to care about this group of people and this group of people? Well, what happened to all lives matter?
And this group of people.
Exactly. All lives matter.
Right. But see, this group of lives don't vote. They don't have any money. You can't hear them.
Yeah.
When they scream in death, you don't hear them. You don't see them. They're out of sight, out of mind. So they're the easy ones to kill,
Yeah.
especially when that's not the child I wanted.
So selfish.
It's pure selfishness, and moral depravity, as this woman demonstrates. Anyway, we're out of time. Oh, you got...
Well, yeah. And this kind of goes along. There are some new pro-life treks, a new pro-life check series from the Pro-Life Check Guy. The website
George
is...
Johnson.
George Johnson.
The website is www.prolifecheckguy.com, and his little tagline that kind of goes with what we are talking about: if you don't believe in miracles, perhaps you have forgotten you are one.
Right.
And these people, like we were just talking about, forget the miracle of life,
Right.
that every life matters. And so I think these checks, are a good everyday reminder for people that, yes, every single life matters.
Yep,
That's
right.
right. I will be ordering those checks the next time I need them. Yeah. Which won't be for a while, but
You don't write that many checks anymore, but...
Hey, some people still do. I saw a lady the other day writing a check at the grocery store.
Well,
so,
that's unusual.
unusual.
Very unusual.
yeah, but they look like they're awesome checks.
Anyway,
Good
y'all got anything else?
No,
That's
just
it?
people are saying hi. Linda Bowers said hello to you. So.
Hi, Linda. How are you? And you got anything on yours?
No, just
right.
people liking it.
right.
Melissa says good point. I don't know what point that was back then.
All
but
the points.
all the points are
All the
good.
points are good.
Thanks,
right?
Melissa.
Some are better than others. Anyway, that's all the time we have. Until next week, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing stops. We'll see you next Tuesday.